Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Greetings and welcome to the final webinar in the fiscal year 2024 Community Services Block Grant, or CSBG State Plan webinar series, titled Navigating the Online Data Collection System, or OLDC. My name is Monique Alcantara. I am a Management and Program Analyst in the Office of Community Services, or OCS, Division of Community Assistance, or DCA. And I'm joined today by my colleague, Nikki Fraser-Curry, Senior Records Specialist. During today's webinar, we will review the elements of a complete CSBG state plan, provide an overview of the online data collection system, or OLDC, via GrantSolutions.gov, and perform a live demo of OLDC to walk through the features and submission steps. Afterwards, we will then remind you of your DCA contacts and share an announcement. There's never a time where we should not take a moment to remind ourselves of the CSBG priorities. The Office of Community Services, Division of Community Assistance, partners with states, territories, tribes, and tribal organizations, and local organizations, commonly known as CSBG eligible entities or community action agencies, as well as state associations and national training and technical assistance partners, to provide services to alleviate the causes and conditions of poverty in communities across the United States and its territories. The purpose of the funds is to reduce poverty, revitalize communities with low incomes, and empower families and individuals with low incomes to become self-sufficient. To achieve these priorities, the funding that OCS provides supports a range of community-level services and strategies to support the needs of the individuals and families with low incomes in rural and urban areas. The first step to achieving the CSBG priorities mentioned in the previous slide begins with the CSBG State Plan. As required by the CSBG Act, Section 676, it is essential for states and territories to complete a 1 or 2 year state plan to be eligible for CSBG funds. However, going even further, that brings us to PEAAK, or the Performance, Evaluation, Accountability, Accessibility, and Knowledge Framework. Yes, submitting the CSBG State Plan is a requirement of the Act, but be reminded that the CSBG State Plan is also a tool that ensures that you as administrators are planning for stellar administration for CSBG to assist the CSBG eligible entities in your state or territory that would help to address the causes and conditions of poverty. The CSBG State Plan is a critical document for both state and federal oversight of CSBG. The plan helps you as the state administrators to identify your goals clearly and share those with OCS, as well as your state network, including CSBG eligible entities within your state, the state association, and the public that you serve. It helps you to clearly and concretely plan the administration of CSBG based on the needs of your state or territory to have the utmost effect within the communities you serve. It helps all involved understand the goals and objectives that you would like to achieve and how to reach your goals by involving people in the planning process. Also, a good plan is a good way to keep track of your progress and informs your future decisions. Therefore, it's strongly recommended that states and territories review your state plan annually to ensure that your program is being administered in accordance with the changing times. Ultimately, this framework will enable the CSBG network, local, state, and federal, to continuously improve its programs and generate breakthrough outcomes for families, individuals, and communities that we serve. As stated in the previous webinars, all federal fiscal year 2024 CSBG state plans are due by Friday, September 1st, 2023. However, we encourage you to submit as early as possible. This helps to ensure that once CSBG is appropriated, we can release funding to you as soon as possible. Also, as a reminder, the CSBG state plan must be based on the federal fiscal year of October 1st through September 30th. And GrantSolutions is now available for submission. So again, please submit as early as possible, but no later than September 1st, 2023. As a reminder, the following state and territory grant recipients are required to submit a revised CSBG eligible entity list and a new CSBG state plan for federal fiscal year 2024. As discussed in CSBG Action Transmittal 2023-04, OCS updated the CSBG eligible entity list to meet federal requirements, and therefore all grant recipients are required to revise their CSBG eligible entity list to include the executive director or comparable position, the website address, and the unique entity identifier or UEI for each eligible entity within your state. As a reminder, the UEI replaced the DUNS number as of April 4th, 2022. And this will directly affect the smart forms that we release for your next CSBG annual report. For those submitting a new CSBG state plan, you must complete and submit all sections, including the SF424M, which is the standard form for federal assistance. We'll cover this a little bit more shortly. If you are submitting a 2-year plan, please provide information for both years that are covered by the CSBG state plan. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail shortly as well. For states and territories that are not required to submit a new CSBG state plan this year, because you already have an acceptance plan that covers the federal fiscal year 2024, please note that you're still required to revise your CSBG eligible entity list and OLDC via GrantSolutions.gov. We're also excited to remind you that you are no longer required to submit the SF424M separately as in previous years and the year which you are not required to submit a new CSBG state plan. If the authorized official change, please work with your CSBG program specialist to revise the SF424M or the cover page within your accepted CSBG state plan. You also have the option to update or revise your plan. OCS suggests only doing so for major revisions. These include, but are not limited to, making a change to the state's plan for usage of funds, or Section 7, significant proposed changes to the state's CSBG policies and procedures, or Section 3 and 10, etc., and or revising the state's organizational standards, policies, procedures, and an assessment, which is Section 6. If you have any questions about these requirements, please contact your program specialist. We will share their contact information later in this presentation. So what are the elements of a complete CSBG state plan? The following is considered a complete submission for federal fiscal year 2024 CSBG state plan. First, revisions to the CSBG eligible entity list. As I mentioned earlier, these were originally due on July 14th. The eligible entity list must be revised and in submitted status prior to initializing a new federal fiscal year 2024 CSBG state plan. If you have not yet revised your CSBG eligible entity list, please do so right away. If you are having technical difficulties or any other issues, please contact your CSBG program specialist for assistance. Secondly, a complete CSBG state plan is required as well. This includes the SF424M as the cover page, sections 1 through 13, including the designation letter and the state use of funds. Excuse me, the assurances in section 14. And finally, agreement to the federal certifications, which is section 15 of the CSBG state plan. Please remember that the authorized official, as designated in the designation letter, must certify the CSBG state plan. This is a requirement. Additionally, if you are choosing to submit a 2-year CSBG state plan, you are required to complete all 2-year items, such as your planned state use of funds, training and technical assistance plans, and your monitoring plan for your CSBG state plan to be considered complete. Not completing the 2nd year information will affect your fiscal year 2025 CSBG annual report. Here's a list of all the items within the CSBG state plan that require a response for both years that are covered by the CSBG state plan. As noted earlier, if you would like to edit the 2nd year responses that you submitted as part of your fiscal year 2023 2-year state plan, due to changes in your state and or the communities you serve, you'll have the opportunity to do so. Now, Nikki will provide a quick overview of GrantSolutions and OLDC prior to moving to the live demo.
Thank you, Monique. GrantSolutions is the official ACF website to submit forms and links to your login.gov account. The platform allows forms to be submitted quickly and securely. Permissions are assigned according to the assigned role, which we will now review. There are 3 roles we recommend states assign to the individuals responsible for performing actions in OLDC. The authorized official has permissions to review and certify forms. The authorized official is the state's authorized designee to certify forms. The name or position of the authorized official must match the designee identified in the designation letter. This is important because the Office of Grants Management, OGM, uses the information to issue grant award letters. The grant administrator has the ability to enter data, submit and unsubmit reports. The data entry role is optional. Individuals with this role can only enter data. There can be more than one person assigned to the grant administrator and data entry person roles. Individuals must have their own accounts. Access is assigned to individuals from the state lead agency, not from associations, contractors, or eligible entities. Individuals must never share their password. In order to complete and submit forms, CSBG must be assigned to the individual's OLDC account. Current users, please verify that you have an active GrantSolutions account and can access OLDC for CSBG grants. To request a new GrantSolutions account, please complete and submit the recipient user account request form and the OLDC access form to the GrantSolutions help desk. If you need to make changes to your existing GrantSolutions account, please also send a request to the GrantSolutions help desk. If you have questions or need assistance, reach out to Monique and me. As previously mentioned, you will access OLDC via the GrantSolutions website. GrantSolutions is compatible with Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, and Microsoft Edge browsers. Logging into OLDC, you must log into GrantSolutions by clicking the login.gov for recipients and grantors button. From the login.gov screen, you will enter your email address and login.gov password. For the accounts to link accurately, you must use the same email address for both login.gov and GrantSolutions. For step-by-step guidance on creating a login.gov account, linking a GrantSolutions email address to a login.gov account, visit the recipient grant management module training resources page in GrantSolutions. We will now prepare to go into a live demo of OLDC. Monique is going to pull up OLDC. I just at this time want to give a few quick notes. We've included summary slides in this presentation to use as a reference. We've included icons of an orange laptop with the GrantSolutions logo on the slides that were presented, that we are presented as part of the live demo. We are using a staging version of the website and have access to all grantee names. So our view may be slightly different from yours. Any actions that we take will not affect your actual CSBG state plan. On the screen, you will see the GrantSolutions page, and this is the view that you should have when logging in through login.gov. On this screen, you see my grants list, and it has a list of the grants that would be assigned to you. To log into OLDC, at the top right, you should see your initials, and then the drop down, you will follow down the list of options to online data collection and click on that. This is the homepage regular. Monique just switched to homepage enhanced. It is suggested and encourage that you work from the enhanced version, which allows you to see the dashboard. On this dashboard, you see the options for my recent activity. This is the first tab, which displays all forms recently assessed by the user. If you recently performed actions on the report, you will see it listed here. From this tab, you can view a form in read-only mode, access the report screen, section screen in edit mode, and navigate to the report form status page. The next tab is the activity report. This is the second tab, under which you can search for forms in progress, submitted or approved over the past 2 years. As you can see on the screen, selected on here is under program community services block grant, and then you would have to select, it should be your state under grantee. To access historical data, use the report form entry link from the main menu. And from this form, you can view a form in read-only mode, assess the report section screen in edit mode, and navigate to the report form status page. We will not review the report due tab. Due dates on the report due tab may not align with the actual due dates set forth by OCS. Always refer to the due date set forth in official OCS communications. I'll turn it back to Monique.
Thank you, Nikki. Please bear with me as I am trying to navigate between two screens. The first thing we're going to discuss is how to access the CSBG State Plan from the report form data entry screen. I'm actually going to go back to OLDC home so that you can see what I did. From the OLDC homepage, once you switch to the homepage enhanced, you'll see report form entry on the left-hand side. You'll click report form entry, and this will bring you to a form selection screen. From the form selection screen, you'll select the program name, which for this instance, we only have Community Services Block Grant, but you might also see any other ACF program that you also administer services for. Then you'll select the grant name. We have access to all the grant recipients, but you'll only have access to your state for the purposes of this demo, which this is a demo site, so everything we do here will not happen to the real site. I am selecting Alabama. And then you'll select the report name. And of course, we're demonstrating the CSBG State Plan, so you'll scroll down to State Plan. And then prior year reports will populate. After you have filled out the first 3 fields, you'll then want to initialize your CSBG State Plan. To do that, you'll click the plus sign next to the appropriate reporting period. The reporting period is always based on the federal fiscal year, and your CSBG State Plan should also be based on the federal fiscal year, even if you operate on a different reporting period. So you'll click the plus sign, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, the state plan will populate. I actually know that it's not going to populate. We are going to get an error sign, and I'm going to use this time to remind you that prior to initializing the CSBG State Plan, you must make sure that your CSBG eligible entity list has been revised and is in submitted status. So I'm going to click OK here. I'm going to quickly show you the eligible entity list for the state of Alabama. Again, this is a demo site, so anything we're showing you here is on a staging site, and we've done these actions purposefully for the purposes of this demo. And you can see that the report status is an initialized, not submitted. I am going to go ahead and head over to Alaska, which does have a submitted state plan or a submitted eligible entity list. And you can see here that it is showing as submitted, and it's a revision 1. So that means now I can go back to the state plan, and I'll go to the appropriate reporting period, and I'll click this plus sign under actions, which will create or initialize a new CSBG state plan for federal fiscal year 2024. So now my state plan's initialized. What should you do next? So from the home page, you can see that we have the CSBG SF424M, as well as sections 1 through 13, section 14, which is your assurances, and section 15. So this allows you to submit your complete CSBG state plan. You'll first want to go into the SF424M. To do so, next to perform action for the appropriate section, you'll click the down arrow and then click edit section. Afterwards, you'll click go. And it will take you to the SF424M. As a reminder, you'll want to select plan, and then under frequency, you'll select annual if you're submitting a 1-year report or 1-year CSBG state plan. And if you're submitting a 2-year, you'll select other 2-year. And then under 1D, you'll want to select initial since this is your first submission. If you are revising a 2-year plan that you submitted in fiscal year 2023, please select revision. You'll also want to make sure that you update the information under number 7 to match the information of the authorized official as designated in the designation letter attached to 1.3. For the purposes of this, we are going to keep it we're going to keep it blank. I'm not going to fill everything out, but just remember to double check that all this information, including the legal name should pre-populate, but you'll want to make sure that the first name and the last name does match the authorized official, as well as the email address. That email address must match the authorized official's email address, not someone else's within the state. And this is a requirement of the Office of Grants Management, or OGM. So once you have your SF424M, I do recommend that the next immediate thing you do is go to section 5 to ensure that all of your CSBG eligible entities have pre-populated. If you go to section 5, and sorry, I went through that very quickly, to jump ahead to a section at this top, and this top little header, you'll click on report sections, and then you can select whichever section you would like to jump to. I selected section 5, so that it took me directly to section 5 from the SF424M. Now, if you go to section 5 and you do not see your eligible entity populated, and Alaska only has 1 eligible entity, you'll want to contact your program specialist right away. Stop, do not pass go, do not continue to do any other efforts, because we are going to have you start over, but we'll work on the back end to get your CSBG state plan active as quickly as possible. Prior to going to the next section or the next action that you can take within the CSBG state plan, I do want to pause and refer you to these action buttons at the top of the screen. You have your first action button, which is the previous section. So that takes you to the previous section of the CSBG state plan. You'll see a pop-up message, and then you'll want to confirm that you want to go to the next section. And you'll see that I'm now at section 4. You have save. Remember to do this often as you're in OLDC. Anytime you make a change, you want to click the save button to make sure that it's saved so that you don't have to start over or re-enter information. We have view and add attachments, which we'll go over the attachments again shortly, but this allows you to view any attachments that you've added to your CSBG state plan as of this point. You have validate. Validate's one of the final steps that you take. It reads through your entire CSBG state plan to ensure that you've answered every question appropriately. And then you have your next section. And the next section does the opposite of the previous section, right? So when you click next session, you'll get a pop-up, and then you'll click OK, and you'll be pushed forward to the next section of the CSBG state plan. So within the CSBG state plan, you have 5 different data entry options. You have your narrative text boxes, your radio buttons, check boxes, tables, and attachments. I'll briefly go through each one or show you an example of each one. But a narrative or text box allows you to enter free text. So let's just navigate back to that screen. Again, I'm going to jump to a different section. So I'm going to hit report sections, section 2, for the example of a narrative or a text box. So as I was saying, A narrative text box allows you to enter free text, as I did when sorry. As you can see under item 2.3, there's a large white field. To add text, you can click in the box and begin typing text into that box. And I can zoom in a little bit so you can see it a little bit more clearly. You can also paste either by right-clicking and clicking paste, or you can do Control-C, which is another, Control-V, which is a shortcut on your keyboard. And if you paste, this information will populate here on the screen. The next data entry option are radio buttons. This is a circular and only allows you to select one option as shown under items 2.1 and 2.2. So you see you have the option of selecting yes or no. And you can only, as I mentioned, select one or the other. If I switch my answer to yes, you'll see that no is no longer selected. And here, if I switch my answer to no, you'll see that yes is no longer selected. And that's also how you change your response. We then have check boxes. And I'm going to hit the next section button. And to do that, you'll click next section. Oh, I didn't save, so I want to hit cancel here. That pop-up is reminding you to save. So I'm saving right now. And you can see my status changed to save. And then I'll click next section. I'll ask you again, you click OK. And a checkbox, or checkboxes are square and allows you to select multiple options. Checkboxes, for the most part, will pre-populate. Again, this is a staging site, so not much pre-populated from the prior year state plan, but when you go in, you'll see that there's mostly information already typed in here. To select a checkbox, you just select any of the squares. And again, you can select as many as you want. Checkboxes allow you to select all. Some checkboxes, when you select it, will pop up a narrative field. If you see a narrative field or a text box pop up, that does mean that that checkbox also requires a narrative. And then to unselect a checkbox, you just click that same checkbox and it'll unselect those options for you. We then have tables as your next option, and I will navigate to section 8. Again, from that header row, you select the down arrow and then you jump to the section that you want by selecting that section. So within section 8, you see 8.1 is a table, and tables allow for multiple types of options. This particular table has 4 fields that you must complete: the plan time frame, training technical assistance, the topic, and then brief description of other if selected. So these all are drop downs. So I will select fiscal year Q1 for the plan time frame. I'm going to select training technical assistance, and then I will select other as the option. And you'll see that once other is selected, a brief description is required as you selected other. To add additional rows for the majority of tables, you click add under, and I'm going to select add to. And then if you need to delete a row, you scroll to the end of the table. I'm actually going to zoom out. If you're at regular Zoom, you won't have to scroll between the table, but you just check the check mark at the end, and then you click delete marked rows. And this will delete any row that you accidentally added and or need to delete. Lastly, we have attachments. There are specific questions that allow for attachments, and we do plan to go over that a little bit later. But that being said, to add an attachment, I will go to section 10. And then you can see under 10.2, there's a paperclip. So if you select that paperclip, it'll allow you to do a cell level attachments. We only accept cell level attachments for the CSBG State Plan. And again, we'll share those exact questions a little bit later. But once you've selected that paperclip, you'll click choose file. You'll then navigate to the appropriate file within your documents. I suggest creating a folder, and then you will attach the appropriate document to it. So I'm going to attach a designation letter, even though that's not 10.2. I do have it named as 1.3, and then we'll attach file. I'll click OK to confirm, and you'll see that the cell location is section 10. I do have the wrong file, but this should say 10.2. The date that was uploaded and pending. It's just running a virus scan in the background. So you don't have to stay on the screen while the virus scan is running. You can click close and return to filling out the question. You'll also see that the paperclip has turned from being a plain paperclip to having a green box showing that a attachment has been attached. And as I mentioned, the allowable attachments, or the items that allow for attachments, are 1.3, which is your designation letter, 2.3, which is the legislation regulation, 4.4, which is public hearing documentation, 6.1b, alternative organizational standards, 10.2, monitoring policies, 15.1, lobby certification, 15.2, drug-free workplace certification, 15.3, debarment certification, 15.4, environmental tobacco smoke. All other questions require that you either provide a narrative, complete the table, or select a checkbox or radio button. As I mentioned earlier, there are some questions that have skip logic, which means depending on your answer to the question, you have to also complete another question. So I'm going to navigate back to section 3. And I will once again select other. Right now you see I didn't click save earlier, so it's not saved. But right now you see I have no checkboxes selected. I'm going to select tools not identified above. And then you see a narrative field pops up. As I mentioned earlier, if you do not, if you select a checkbox where another field pops up or another question pops up, you must also answer that additional question. And in this case, it's providing an additional narrative. Going back to your form selection screen, I am going to hit save here. Oh, I'm actually going to hand it back to Nikki. And she's going to discuss printing options once your CSBG State Plan is complete.
Thanks again, Monique. So the first thing we're going to talk about with printing options is printing one section. You can print either a singular section or the full report. To print a singular section, you want to go to the form select. Well, we're going into our report, and Monique just navigated to the form section screen. And under the form section screen, you'll go down to the section that you want to print. And under select action, you will select the print section button and then hit go. And you can see on the screen that a new box shows up with that particular section shown. From this point, you can you're able to download the file. You could either save as a PDF, or you can actually print, whatever your option is. We just hit the print button, and you can see from the drop down that you have the ability to pick where you want to print to or to save as a PDF.
Nikki, just as a quick note, because I did that really fast, in order to get to this, I right-clicked on the pop-up screen because there isn't an option like a file print option. So if you right-click, it will come up with the options that you have. Sorry, Nikki.
No problem. You were quick. We missed the right click. Thanks so much, Monique. We can close out of that and we can show how to print the full form. And we will navigate to the report section screen, or the report form status screen, I'm sorry, at the top. You have the option to click on report form status. This is the status for your report for when you perform this action. For this report status screen for Alaska, we see that this report is accepted. NCO stands for Central Office. And when you scroll over for that first banner, the dashboard, you see the option to print. And if you click the down arrow, it gives you several options. You can print as a PDF, print as HTML, or print the PDF with attachments. If you're at the end of your whole report, the options you most likely want to get the full report. If you need to share with someone in your organization, you could print PDF with attachments. And that option, once you do that, you click go. And you can see that it opens up a file explorer box. You will name the file. It's going to have existing text for the file. You can choose to rename it. A lot of times you want to put the actual state or the fiscal year which it covers to give the whoever the recipient is of this this document more information, and then you can hit the save button. Pretty simple, huh? Pretty simple. And this concludes the demo section. I would like to, Monique mentioned many times that you do want to save often. You do not want to be in a situation that you enter information in some kind of way, you lose power. That's happened to me before. So you want to save often to make sure that you have all your information in. The save button allows you to retain the information that is entered. Validate checks the rules and saves data. So when you hit validate, any calculations that the system has to do, that is done in the validation stage. Once you hit validate, that is also the stage in which you will see if there are any errors or warnings in your state plan. The certify applies the electronic signature. And we mentioned before that the authorized official should be the one to certify the state plan, and then we have submit. And this option is usually done by the grant administrator, and this officially submits your state plan to the Office of Community Services for CSBG. Now we have a mighty DCA team that I will quickly review. So first, we have the Office of Director, the Office of the Division Director. That director is Sharice Johnson. So Division Director. Then we have Verna Best, our Program Operations Branch Chief. Melissa Joseph is the Financial Operations and Accountability Branch Chief. And then we have our wonderful, I might be biased, Manette Galindo, Policy Data and Evaluation Branch Chief. Next, we'll move along to the CSBG Program Operations Branch, and we have Program Specialists Renee Brooks, Jessica Kane, Renika Carr, Isaac Davis, Jamia Furbush, and we also have Jane Golden, Andrew Colley, Catherine Maddox, Jake Mathai, oh, he's going to kill me, Jake Mathai, and Mitch Nevada. And moving on to the Financial Oversight and Accountability Branch, we have Richard Robinson, who just joined us recently, Norris Phillip, and Angie Kelly. And finally, the Policy Data and Evaluation Branch, the PDE team, is Monique, who's on the call today, almighty Monique, Melanie Durley, Nikki Frazier Curry, that's me, Taylor Lennon, Lena Katanchian, and Noel Sumtheimer. And I'll turn it back to Monique for announcements and final remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikki. I just have one quick announcement. Excuse me, I'm sorry. We are so excited to announce the CSBG State Plan Toolkit. The State Plan Toolkit includes things as our most recent communications as it relates to the state plan and the eligible entity list, any forms and guidelines that we've created. We have the CSBG eligible entity list OLDC instruction guide, as well as the fillable forms for the CSBG eligible entity list and the state plan, and a PDF version of the CSBG state plan. Any upcoming webinars will also be listed here with a link to the CSBG events page, which allows you to pre-register for any upcoming webinars as it relates to the state plan. And we're also creating video demos for everything that we're showing you here for both the eligible entity list. We already have 2 demos for the eligible entity list available by clicking on either of these links. And we are creating demos for the state plan. So everything that we talked through today, we'll have quick 5-minute demos to walk through each action that you can take when it comes time to submit your state plan. And so we'll be announcing those shortly. But the state plan toolkit is currently available. So if you haven't already explored it, please do so at your earliest convenience. I just want to thank everyone again for joining us and for all that you're doing to complete your CSBG state plan for the fiscal year 2024 season. This concludes our webinar for today. Thank you for watching.
Okay.